Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast number 27. In this podcast, also, we're going to be exploring the CGI world, the Archviz world. And today, our guest is Cristina Patané. She's from Sicily. And here we're going to discuss her process, but also we're going to discuss what are the struggles of a freelancer in a region like Sicily in these crazy COVID times. So yeah, enjoy the conversation. It was really interesting to know more about her practice and her way of doing Archviz. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. And if you like the project, the Creative Insider podcast, you can support the podcast by going on Instagram and typing in @TCI Podcast or Facebook, The Creative Insider, and LinkedIn, The Creative Insider. Just press like, follow, share with your friends. And yeah, you'll find also links in the description of this podcast. So thank you and enjoy podcast number 27.
The whole world stops just like that.
Hello, Cristina. How are you?
Hello, Georgi, and hello, everyone. Fine, thanks.
Thank you very much for accepting my invitation for the podcast. First of all, I told you in our chat before we started recording that I got your name from another guest of mine. And Valentina Baruffo told me about you.
Yeah.
And so the podcast we recorded with her was very interesting. And I think that we're going to have an interesting podcast together too. So thank you for the invitation. You can introduce a little bit yourself to the audience because not everybody knows you.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking you for inviting me to speak with you. And it's a really pleasure for me and an honor to share a little bit of my experience with you and in general with the community. And I must confess that I am a little bit excited because this is the first time I speak in a format like this. And my name is Cristina Patané. I live in Catania, in the south of Italy, and I am an engineer and architect and 3D artist.
Everybody are a little have a little excitement and their emotions when they start talking on the podcast. But I'm sure in a few minutes you'll be like totally fine and totally normal, and won't be a big deal. It's just a conversation.
Yeah.
So you're in Sicily, right?
Yeah. Actually, I live in Sicily when I currently start my own studio, Cristina Patané Images, a visualization studio, because I
You wanted to go solo. You wanted to go freelance.
Yeah, I work as a freelancer most of the time, and this is my main profession. Despite I am an engineer architect because I studied engineering.
Very interesting. At which, so because you have told me you studied something that's engineering and architecture in the same time, when did you decide you wanted to be an engineer that has to do something with construction and create some buildings or infrastructure? At which point in your life, as a kid already, or at which point in your life did you wanted to become an engineer?
An engineer, when I was young, I had always a great passion to drawing, to architecture, in general for the creative field. But to be honest, actually, I didn't wake up one morning with the intention to become a creative in the specific. It was a spontaneous curiosity I developed during the years at school, at university, approaching areas related to creativity and yes, this is my a kind of background, the main background. Yeah,
And where did you study? In which university did you study?
I studied in engineering and architecture in Catania, and I remember during the university, I didn't have in mind to become a creative 3D artist. I spent my years at uni studying most of the time mathematical calculations, and I was not very enthusiastic about it. And actually, I didn't know that there could be a profession related to architectural visualization, because this is the main field where I work every day. But I remember I had my preferences, which were related to architecture and communication of architectural design. At the time when I was at uni, unfortunately, I was not educated to convey the idea of architecture through images. I was not aware about specific tool or literature about Archviz, and maybe I think today the situation in the university is a little bit different compared when I was a student. And what I have developed so far is the result of a great curiosity, passion, and possibility I had after the university.
And did you do your studies completely in Catania, or you studied somewhere your master, or was it bachelor and master?
Yes, my bachelor's, yeah, I completed the study in Catania, and after the university, I decided to chase my real passion for the creative industry, in particular for 3D CGI, and 3 years ago I did the amazing masterclass in Archviz at State of Art Academy in Venice, and this experience helped me a lot to define a path in the industry of Archviz.
Yeah, I know about this master class. It's pretty famous in the archivist field. So to all the people that are listening, if you want, you can. It's not sponsoring a podcast or something. You can
No.
go and check the State of Art Academy. It's very interesting. It's near Venice. But before you join the State of Art Academy, because I know already. Federico Biancullo was also he's from the archivist field. He was in the podcast. He told me also that he has followed this class,
Yeah.
and he said when I went there, I had already a knowledge about archivists, and I didn't learn like a lot, everything. Maybe some little tip and tricks that were helpful for him. Before you did this master, were you also already very good in visualization?
No, to be not honest, no. But before to start the academy, I had some knowledge about modeling and rendering. Basically, a base knowledge about this topic. But I needed to find a serious guide, and the school was the right place to improve some artistic and technical aspects related to the creation of a good image. And I remember I had a dream to create a good image, and because I had no knowledge during the university, and I chosen to attend the masterclass to improve my skills, basically to improve my skills.
And how did so when you completed this master class, did you started to work on your own, or you found a job in the industry to improve even more?
Yes, after the masterclass, I started to work hard on my portfolio because I wanted to have a work experience abroad. So I remember I spent almost 1 year to create a few images. And after that, I started to send my applications and very randomly because at the time I had no more awareness about the studios all around the world, but I started to send my applications until I received a positive response from a studio in Vienna, and I got my first job as a junior artist. And after this first experience in Austria, it was the turn of Berlin in another international well-known studio, Bloom Images. And yes, I start to improve a little more my skills in this field.
In the studio in Vienna, was it also a big one, a famous one, or a smaller?
A smaller studio, yeah.
So you work with also with the 3ds Max software, right?
Mainly, yes, 3ds Max, V-Ray as a render engine, and Photoshop for the post-production phase, yeah.
So I've I to go to work. I bike. I use a bicycle, and it's it's like 30-40 minutes to go to work, and I have a lot of time to think about stuff, and I sometimes think about my guests that are coming on the podcast
Yeah.
and what I could ask them. And I found out on Facebook there is a group. It's called Women in Archviz, or Women for Archviz. I don't remember the exact name, but mainly I saw that all the girls that I have in my friendship on Facebook, they're in that group. And I was wondering, do you think that because I started thinking this is the modern art, it's like painting with a computer. And I started thinking about the painters of the past, and I don't know a female painter. And then I thought, do women have a different taste for images as men? And I don't say like better or worse, just different. What do you think about it? Have you ever thought about this topic?
I think in the art in general, during the time, the female figures are always in a sort put in a sort of a secondary plane rather than the man figure. Because I don't know why. Now maybe the situation is a little bit different in many fields, not only in the specific fields of archivists, but in the field of cinema, music, and art in general. But the female, the woman, plays an important role. And now the situation is changed a little bit. But I think the vision that as a woman is another point of view, and not too much different from the male point of view, but It's interesting. It's interesting for me to see many works from a woman that with another touch, maybe more softness or delicate. I don't know the word, but a delicate approach.
Yeah, more delicate. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, because I was wondering, it's very strange because I think, of course, in the past, the society was different. And I really was thinking about female painters in the past because I've studied also in a school of arts in Italy, and we have learned a lot about history of art. And I noticed that we always have learned about males, like men, no women painter. And then now there is this new field of archivists where you are there are so many girls, so many women, and you do super good work. I mean, I'm currently looking on your Instagram, all the images, and they're super amazing. I wanted to ask you, when you do an image, it has a very specific atmosphere.
yeah.
How do you, when before you start doing an image, how do you think what kind of image it's gonna be, or it's just through the process, and then how do you do this atmosphere? How you think about the atmosphere in the images?
When I started to think an image, the first thing I do is to collecting some reference. But before to start to collect some reference, I start to think the right atmosphere, and sometimes I pick up from my memories, from my background, in order to define a specific image. Then I move on with a specific research about references and because the technical aspect is the same in my workflow. I try to spend a little bit more time to define a story to tell, basically. So for this reason, I spend more time to collect references to achieve a specific mood that how can I say, to convey a specific topic or a specific story. Yes.
Yeah, because it's I can see that there are like stories in your images. I can imagine the images sometimes moving because they're very sometimes very dramatic. Sometimes it looks like in motion. It's very very interesting the way you do images, and these references you collect. Are there those references other Archviz images, or are there any kind of references?
To be honest, I must confess that the main reference, I have a real passion for art. So the main reference, I collected the main reference from art because I follow several artists all around the world, and I am constantly fascinated by their work, but I try to achieve a personal result in my images. And I look at other Archviz images, but not too much, because I think you have to look at Archviz, the master Archviz artist, as idols to follow, but not copy. I try to achieve always my personal way and create a particular touch. I have a lot to learn, still lot to learn. And I repeat, I love so much many artists, but most of the time I try to collecting from other fields, art, dancing, cinema, yes.
Yeah, I can see in some images they look like paintings. So I saw that you have some in frame. Also, you printed them, so it's very interesting. But you said you spent 1 year to make your first portfolio
Yeah.
and to create your first to get a first job. But did you do only that for a year, or you worked also in another job in another field in the meanwhile? How did you manage that?
During that phase, in the same time when I created my portfolio, I started to work as engineering here in Catania because it was a transition phase of my life because I wanted to decided what I want to become. In the meantime, I tried to create this image because my main goal was go away for a bit of time to improve my skills, and to have a work experience abroad.
And was it very hard to do images and work in the same time? Like you needed to do a lot of extra hours after work to do your portfolio, or how did you manage to do this?
No. I remember that was a good phase, a nice phase, because I was able to manage both situations. My personal growth as a 3D artist during the creation of my portfolio, and to manage the other side of work experience here. So I have not much problems to manage this process. I remember I had some problem when I start to go away, especially when I lived in Berlin, because the experience in Berlin helped me not only as professional growth, but as a personal growth, because there I started to learn to deal complex moments, especially away from home.
But you said you've been first in Vienna. How? So you prepared your portfolio and you've been called from the studio in Vienna. And did you need to go in Vienna to do an interview to get the job, or how did that first job work?
Yes, I did an interview here from Italy, and then several interviews. I remember maybe 3 or 4 interviews before accepting the proposal, and then move on in the city, in this new city that I didn't know, and for me was the first experience away from home for a job experience.
Uh, why you say for a job experience? Did you do some Erasmus program when you were a student, or have you been abroad
No,
before?
no. I didn't this kind of experience Erasmus. I start to go away in the Europe after the university, after the bachelor, and yes, the first experience was Vienna and then Berlin.
So when you moved first, how long have you been in Vienna? 1 year or less, or how long?
No, both experience very less. 4 months in Vienna and almost 6 months in Berlin.
So you've been when did you go to Vienna? Which year? 2019 or 18 or?
The year, consider I finished the masterclass in 2017, so the next year in 18, Vienna, and 19, so last year, Berlin.
And what was so when I moved from Italy to Germany, I moved here in 2015, the end of 2000, in September 2015. So 5 years ago. And in the beginning, for me it was different because I was participating in this Erasmus program, exchange students around Europe, and we had a lot of help from the university and from local students. But I still had some, cultural shock because from the people, like, I don't know, there are some listeners, for example, from the US and from other parts of the world. Here in Europe, although the different countries are very close to each other, for
Yeah.
example, Italy and Germany, it's 1 hour flight or 2 hours flight in case of Sicily, for example. But when you leave Sicily and land in Germany, you land in a completely different world.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes, yes.
eh, and I wanted to ask you, I was curious because you're from one of the southest point of Europe, and then you came to first Austria, which, I mean, to me, Austrians are a little even more cold than Germans.
Yeah.
I think. But what was your cultural shock? What were your difficulties that you encountered here?
Many difficulties. I must confess, I had many difficulties. The main one was the language, Deutsch. But for me, it was a nightmare. And it was a really problem for me because before moving on abroad, I was the habitude to live in a sort of a comfort zone because you live in your home with your friends, with your language, with your environmental situation. And when you decide and have to understand, to have the courage to go away, it's a really it's a big a big deal because it's a completely new situation in your life. And I remember the first problem was the weather because I constantly live here in Sicily with nice weather during the year, in the summer, in the winter. I mean, the winter is the same, almost the same all around the world. But here in the south of Italy, we have the pleasure to live in a field with nice weather. So when I moved in both Vienna and Berlin was devastating for me. And then another problem was related to the language. I had some difficulty to create a new relation with new friends, and at work sometimes was very difficult because I had not the fluency to speak in English, and I didn't know the German language, and yes, it was very difficult for me.
Yeah, for me it was difficult a little bit because the people are very different. And for example, I was missing the normal daylight because here in winter is always dark, and then in summer is always like sunny. So it was a little bit difficult for me the first year, but then now I got used to it, so it's a little better. um, and did you what did you learn from these job experiences on your workplace? Because the first time you said you work for a little smaller studio, and then you work for Bloom Images, which is I don't know if it's a big, but it's a very famous studio. So
Yes.
what did you learn there?
I learned almost the same workflow, but in Vienna, I learned to manage a small project with technical workflow. Then in Berlin, I learned to manage some new stuff related to plugins, other software, uh, to deal mostly the deadline was very difficult for me because I had no experience in project with a scale a little bit large, and I tried to I started to learn how can manage a complex project. Vienna was related a small project, was different. I have the opportunity to learn to improve my skills in gradually uh, in a gradually scale. And, but Berlin was more difficult. Uh, I admitted that it was very difficult because I found myself immediately in a situation really large. Uh, and yes, it was very hard to face.
And how was did you work in English in these companies?
Yes, both in English. Yeah.
And did those helped you to also get to know people from everywhere and get a little bit of connections in the Archviz world?
Not much. Not much.
And
In both cases, not much.
and how was to work with people from other countries? Because people also have different way of thinking when they are from different countries. Was that also difficult, or did you manage to be in a good relationship with all the teammates?
No, normal relation. I keep a relation with. I have the opportunity to meet in Berlin two Italian guys coming from the South Italy, and yes, thanks to these guys, I try to manage the some complex moments sometimes. The relation with the rest of the team, it's a relation. It's a relation.
And okay, you spend this, let's say it's 1 year, because 4 months in Vienna, 6 months in Berlin. And then what happened? You decided to move back to Sicily and ground up your first studio, let's say, as a freelancer?
As a freelancer, yeah, and I admit that it was not an easy choice back to home from Berlin, because I honestly wanted to gain more experience abroad. And I started this adventure last year when I came from Berlin, and for me, it represents the biggest challenge I face every day, because it's not easy to run a growing young studio for several reasons. And I think because the Archviz industry is constantly growing, and this means that this field becoming more competitive. Then, because the pandemic events do not play in my favor, and in particular because in the South Italy, mostly in Sicily, it's really difficult to talk about this kind of professional activity that is Archviz. It's very difficult.
And so, but you started before the pandemic, right? Like a year ago,
Yeah, before the pandemic.
in 2019. When did you start the office for the first time?
For the first time last year in between May and June, I started
Okay.
this adventure.
So I'm curious. What was the what did you need to start an office? So did you started to do you work from home, or you took a studio? And what was the investment in terms of hardware, software? How did you set up the office in the beginning?
Um, I start to invest in some software, the basic software that I normally use. I use in my workflow, and I buy a new computer with specific features for this work. And yes, start and I try to start very how can I say, very low, because I think before you run, you can try to walk. So I decide to spend the basic the basic that you need when you start a work. And I had the opportunity to avoid some specific cost about the rent of the studio, because my studio is in my home, so where I live, and these kind of this part of money, I saved a part of money to to buy some other stuff for the job that I faced every
So
day.
you started small, and but I'm curious. Can you explain me better why you say it's so hard to have a conversation about this profession, the archivist, the 3D artist in Sicily?
Yes, it's a little bit complicated because in Sicily we have some architectural studio where probably this profession is not very very known, or at least when a designer decide to create an image, this image comes from the studio, the same studio. So the designers doesn't speak with other people external to the studio for I think for the main reason is related to the cost of an image, probably. I don't know, but I know that many studios here, specific in Catania, tends to create the image, some images for in-house, and just maybe for a very small situation for a competition or I don't know, some basically for the competitions, some designers decided to speak with a specific studio that created images for Archviz. Yeah.
And but I was thinking, because do you specifically wanted to try to work mainly with people in your area in Sicily, or are you also trying to get some clients from around Europe and around the world? Because I mean, I was telling you also in the conversation we were having before starting the podcast that compared to architecture, Archviz is a little bit more a kind of
Yeah.
soft work. You can be more mobile. You can just need to do an image. You don't need to meet each other in person. Like, you don't have to go in a construction place. And I see that on Instagram, for example, social media marketing, you're doing pretty good because you have I mean, a big account. So um, have you ever gotten also some tasks, some projects from abroad, or you work only with local architects?
Both local and abroad. Some work abroad. Eh, Basically, I found it through the Instagram. Instagram is the social that I like. I really like because it's a great universe because you can create a different connection with other people in the world. And yes, most of the work that I developed during the time I found through Instagram.
And also, I found you about it through Instagram too, because I mean, I got your name from Valentina, but then I went to your Instagram page is the first thing I did. So, I think it's a great work. It's very catchy. It's very a part of the images are beautiful. You have a beautiful logo also. So you clearly can see
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
gr-
because
a good
I think it's very how can I say immediato,
Yeah, it's very direct, very
very
immediate,
direct. Yeah,
and it's also, it's a perfect social media for you guys from the Archviz because it's about images. So so you can create a portfolio. Um, and so you started this practice in May, so in the middle of last year. How long did you need to start the whole office? Because I mean, buying the computer, I guess you need to open a small firm probably for the taxation and stuff like that.
yeah. The normal path when you decide to start an activity. Yeah, this is the main the main way that the common way for to start. A personal studio, and then every day I find myself to face other situation, not only the common situation related to the creation of an image. So, for instance, to manage not only the clients but manage the social media, because I have a personal page on Facebook and Instagram, and I try personally to keep update those pages.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of work. For example, I work on my social media with the podcast and doing the podcast, and I have a full time job, and that's very much time consuming. So I can totally understand. And how did you manage to find your first clients? Who were your first clients when you started this activity?
My first client was a friend of mine at the university, and we start a small collaboration. I developed some images for a small project, architectural project, and then yeah, I try to manage. In this moment, I manage. I develop a small project, and I hope to start to manage large scale project, because I think it's very interesting to learn new stuff in this job.
And so you said that the pandemic wasn't very helpful for this activity. As can I can guess, what have been your thoughts so far about this pandemic and your concerns? Because as we were talking, I think you have had a lot of thoughts about the pandemics.
The pandemic situation is not a good moment, because in this time I live a strange situation at work, mostly because I have no much work than when I started to work last year, and I hope the situation change, but not only for me, but in general in the world. Because it's a really difficult to deal. I don't know. I don't know what I can say about this situation. But from my point of view, it's a really difficult.
I think for freelancers it's very very difficult because I mean, for example, for people which are employed in an office as an employee, even if you lose your job, you get most of the times in the European countries support from the government, from the state. You get some sort of money for being, these occupation subsidies, and especially, for example, here in Germany, it's, I mean, so far as I know, it's pretty or good or pretty well organized. So I think that for freelancer it's very difficult because um, yeah, you don't have this backup, this support. Have you thought about, starting any side activities, like, I don't know, for example, teaching Archviz? Could this be an idea for you in the future? Because, I was thinking that a person with your skills, for example, in these difficult times, this could be something on the side, also create some sort of teaching classes. Or did you start, have you ever thought about some different ways of doing Archviz in this particular time we're living in?
Yes, and I'd like to teaching because it's an idea that I always had in my mind, and I'm waiting, to be honest, a little bit of time to start this side of my profession. But I really love to teach this professional, especially here in Sicily, in Catania. Um, I don't know. It's something that passes me in my mind. Probably I start to think more about teaching.
And have you ever done any kind of exposition of your work? Because I saw you have some printed images in frames. This, has there ever been like a, I don't know, not, I don't know, in general in the in industry, some sort of art exposition of computer graphics, as far as you know?
If I have some exposition about my works,
Yeah, exactly. Because I saw you have an image on Instagram where you have three of your images in printed.
printed and put in a frame. No exposition. It's just a personal creation because I like the painter and the frame to put my image in a frame and. Yes, in a sort of a breathe in the air, not only on the screen of a desktop. And I prefer to printed some images and put in my studio. Yeah, to give more colors in the walls.
I think an idea could be also to sell them online, because they're very beautiful, and I would even hang some of them in my room if I could have any, because they're like really like framed stories, like an instant of a story. I particularly like the one with the ballerina dancing and the other girls looking at her from.
Okay. Yeah. With a
You know,
guy. With a guy.
Yeah, because you can know the one that there are. I guess there are many little ballerinas that are. Uh, there is one ballerina dancing in the light,
Okay.
and then there are other little ballerinas looking at her in like the darkness of the foreground.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry, I'm confusing with another image. Yes, this is the one of the latest image that I created, and yes, during my my spare time, and yes, probably I finished 2 weeks ago. And yes, it's a little bit darker because I.
No, but I like it very much because, for example, it's a story. It's like you can, for example, when I watch this image, um, well, you're right that there the guys are watching her. Yeah, it's a very there. It has so many meanings. You can imagine a story behind it. So it's a very very interesting composition. I suggest to the people who are listening to just go on your Instagram, which is, I mean, if they go to Cristina Patané images, they can find your images and to check them out because they're very interesting. I saw you've been taking part also in the D2 challenges. That's right, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I created an image, and to be honest, this challenge is really really interesting for the topic because I didn't know before you fairies and. Yes, I tried to create an image, and my main idea was to manage both the technical and the artistic aspects. Technical related to the manage of the lighting and the depth of field because the shot, the picture is taken from bottom to high. So it's really, really interested because I never managed before an image like this one, mostly for the technical aspect. And I really love this competition. I think many people in Archviz industry love this competition in these days because I think I see every day new images and the amount of pictures are very very huge. Probably it's a great competition, a great challenge in this moment.
But tell me a little more about the task. The task was to do an image inspired from what is it, a photographer or an artist? This guy Ferris.
In order to create my image, what the inspiration from
No, the task of the D2 challenge was to create an image which was inspired by this.
yes, it's an architect that, to be honest, I didn't know before. And
Well, what is his name? Because I don't know him either.
Hugh Ferris, in conjunction with another great, because this topic was chosen by another great artist that it's one of my favorite artists, Archviz, and it's a pretty interesting.
Yeah, I saw these lots of. Yeah, I can see some of his. He did some drawings in this style, so it's very Now I see the interest. It's an interesting challenge. And so, in this period of time of the lockdown of the pandemic, do you spend again a little bit more time on doing your own images of improving your portfolio, or
Yes, yes.
how
I spend most of the time to create personal images and yes, looking for new reference and improve my skills, technical and artistic. And in this moment, I try to push my boundary and explore new other fields from a different point of view. And I'm very interested about a new topic. For instance, the photogrammetry, and I find myself to studying and new topic to improve, to grow up my portfolio.
And is it hard to find motivation for that due to the general situation? Because a few days ago I was talking to Fabio Palvelli, which is exactly one of the founders of the D2 conference, and he was telling me that general currently the motivation and the spirit in the community of Archviz is a little low, exactly because of the pandemics. So, do you still have a lot of passion, and can you concentrate on doing your art despite the difficulties? Because myself, sometimes when I have a lot of stress and difficulties in my personal life or in my life in general, work life, I am a little demotivated and I tend to, not be willing to do anything.
Yes, it's a nice, and I think it's a nice and important question. And I feel this question is the main question, not only in this field or related to the field of Archviz. I think it's something more larger related to the creative industry because find motivation, for instance, for me, because working as a freelance, you need to find your own space and organization, a sort of mentality, a positive way to face a particular moment like this one. And I think it's important to keep to stay calm sometimes because it's really difficult, and you can find yourself in a critical situation. I mean, what I mean is sometimes you are not always on top. You have to face the difficult moment, and you need to find your personal motivation, and if necessary, is I think you have to think about yourself, because in my case sometimes I start to think but why I do these images in this moment. And the only answer is I really love this job. Basically because I really love this job, and despite the difficulties, and try to find a motivation. I don't know. I don't know. It, it's really difficult to give you an answer. And
But did you set up yourself? I don't know. Sort of a deadline to say, okay, I can do this for, I don't know, 5 6 months more, and if the situation doesn't get better, I will need to find again another job, or what is your view about the near future? Because the long term future, nobody knows. I think it's a very
nobody knows. But to be honest, also the near future. Because sometimes I start to think, okay, maybe I stop and change, or but I can't. I can't because I want to keep do this job. But to be honest, every day I don't know because I found myself alone to find some answer, directly answer, both personal and professional answer, and it's something that you manage yourself, by yourself. You manage this situation. I don't know. I don't know, but I like the question. It's very tricky, and
yeah, I think that we are living in a strange time, because I think that it's the first time, at least in a few generations, maybe since the Second World War. So maybe in our generation, our lifetime, that everybody, I think even Second World War was different, because it was more, you could see what is the enemy. I don't know where the bomb come from, but this time we all feel this stress, this
yeah,
very very strange,
very
uh,
strange, stressed.
very strange way of dealing with this virus, and everybody are put under pressure, because you know the more you close, it's a chain, so the economic will go down, and everybody are in stress, because, for example, I mean, even if you work, if you don't have time to go out, or you cannot go out, you get depressed, because if you cannot meet your dear one, your family. For example, I couldn't
Yeah,
meet my family since the beginning of the year, because every time I wanted to travel, it wasn't possible.
it was impossible
Eh,
for the
for
situation.
example,
I
I
know.
wanted to travel next week back to Italy, but now it's not possible, because I mean it wouldn't be safe at all, because you don't know. Maybe you travel and they do a lockdown where you go, and then you cannot come back, or it's very hard to come back. So it's, I think, a part of the economical situation is very hard on a personal level,
A person,
because
yeah, yeah, I'm agree.
we and I don't know. I'm worried that if this keep going, the situation will explode on a social level first, and we can see that now there are a lot of people already protesting against these new measurements, and I think that the politics and media didn't do a good job with the first wave, because they scared everybody, but then maybe it's not that bad, but they still keep. I hate that every day you find the news about, I don't know, 30 years old dies, 17 years old dies, but how many 30 years old are fine, and how many 17 years old are fine, and how many people die in car accidents or die from something else? So I don't say that the virus is not dangerous, or that there is no virus, but the whole communication, it can be dangerous, I think.
Yeah, I think.
And and other artists are even worse than us. Imagine like small local artists on a base, like singers, which cannot have events, or actors in theaters,
Yeah,
no events, so they have zero chances. It's very strange.
it's very strange and create some situation nervous, depressing, and yeah, uh, it's very 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 strange, very strange. I have no much word to describe this situation, because I think many people has the different point of view, because live in a different personal situation. And I think this pandemic create a new vision from different people in the world, and the main thing is rivalutare,
Reevaluate, yeah.
reevaluate the human aspect. Because when you, for instance, your situation, you live abroad and you want to come in Italy because you miss your family, your friends, it's really, really sad sometimes, and you feel very, very strange. I try to imagine some situation, because I personally have the lucky to live with here in Catania, with near to my parents, and but I try to imagine other situations from some friends, for instance, abroad, and it's very strange.
No, but I mean, also the things that nobody is saying is that we are also, it's like taking your time away, because this time which I cannot visit, for example, my dear ones, my family, I will never get back. It's like, or for example, I have a younger brother, he's still at school, and you cannot stop kids from going to school, because you will lose the time of those kids to learn, to grow up, to develop themselves. And yeah, I don't know. I think that there is a very short term thinking in general. We want to save the situation right now, but maybe by saving the situation now, we're gonna make damages for the long term. Because if the economics collapse, and yeah, it's not gonna be good. I mean, it's a very complex situation. I know that just observing as somebody that's not taking decisions, it's easier. But I mean, in the end of the day, that's why there are some people which are there to take decisions, because they have gotten that job. Um, but before this pandemic, did you ever had the opportunity to attend in person some of these 3D conferences, this conference about CG architecture, and about to create more connections in the community? Because you told me you know Valentina through articles in magazines, and you've been already interviewed by some magazines. How did you? What are your connections in the archivists in general, as in the industry?
My connection, but basically my journey in this field starts 3 years ago because I started to attend some conference abroad, here in Italy and abroad. And last one was last year no, last year, no, 2 years ago, because I attended for the first time the D2. And yes, I think the conferences are important to create some connection. And for me, when I went to D2 for the first time, was the a new world, a new universe, because for it was the first time I attend this kind of event. And it's really strange because there was many people, many artists, many artists that you liked so much. And yes, the first time was very strange for me because, to be honest, I didn't understand nothing because for the huge number of artists. I remember was a really a blasting moment, and I miss the conferences. Because represent for me a moment to meet some friends. And yes, this year it's not possible, but I hope the next year, or I don't know, to attend again other conferences.
And it the D2 conference while you were already living in Vienna, or you especially went for the conference?
No, no. The strange situation was that I back at home when I attend Vienna, the D2, and yes, I remember I back 3 months, and then in August I attend again because I came back in Italy after the experience in the studio.
I see, I see. So you needed to go back, especially for that. But I mean, you knew already the city, so it was probably easier for you. And I understand also that you miss those kind of conferences in person, because I mean, especially people from Italy and southern Italy, as you, there, people are more like. They like human interactions. Like in Italy, in south of Italy, when I was once in Catania, and the people there were very friendly and very welcoming. So it's the culture, part of the culture, to have a conversation, to get to know each other, touching each other physically. It's something that's belonging to the culture.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. We tend, in general, yeah. Here in Catania, or in general in South Italy, we have this behavior to touch or communicate with particular touch. Yeah, to speak.
and was this one also one of the reason you went back to Sicily, because you missed it too much, or was this also a reason to go back?
Many reason, because I miss a bit my home, but I don't want to hand the situation and related just because I missed my home, but because I think I understand that Vienna, Berlin doesn't not the right place for me. This is the main reason, probably the main reason for the weather, for the work. Yes, and I
And if you let's say this pandemic gets like we find some way to treat this virus, a medicament, a vaccine, something, and the pandemic is over. If you had the chance, uh, where would you be curious to go? Because you told me also you have a little bit of, you would like to go again a little bit abroad to have another experience abroad. So, do you have in mind some place on the world which you would be curious to go and try out living in?
yes, I have. I always have in mind my two places in my heart. One is London, and the second one is Paris. And probably since the beginning, then when I start to with this job, my preference is London. But also sometimes also friends in Paris, and yes, because I really like so much these different cities, and yeah, I'd like to try to move in this city.
And do you want to keep trying to work as a freelance in those city, or is there some dream studio or dream studio would you like to work for?
Um, I prefer like a freelance because I have many studio. My favorite studio abroad, but there is one in the specific studio. But I prefer to work as a freelance.
I didn't. Is there is no one specific studio, or there is one specific studio?
Yes, there is one.
Which one? Which one is would be interesting for you?
I like a studio is a dark studio. I really like because it's one of my idols, and I look always the work of this studio in particular. And but I like many other studios, but this one is the first for me.
Where they're based? In which city are they?
The studio,
Yeah.
probably I don't want to wrong, but in the south of England, in a small city near to the sea. I don't remember the name of this place, but in the south of England, near to London, maybe. But yeah.
And yeah, I think I think that if you want to do this for sure, for sure you're gonna achieve it, because I see that you have the skill set You're very passionate, and I have to admit that. I'm curious also if your engineering background have helped you somehow to be a better artist, a CGI artist.
My engineering background, it's a little bit strange because a technical background compared a creative background. It's a very, very strange for me because, as I told before in my introduction, I think that my character has led me over the years to develop a visionary approach to things that surrounding me, rather than a technical aspect related to the engineering field. And I developed during the time a vision for a specific field related to the art in general, art, cinema, music. For instance, I remember when I was at university, my sister was studying theater, and I remember that I liked to go and watch the shows, and I was fascinated by the set costumes and stuff like that. And yes, probably have a creative approach. I always prefer a creative approach and not the technical approach. And also currently in my workflow, the technical aspect. Okay, I face the technical aspect, but I try to put more. I try to focus on more the artistic approach because I really like this part in particular.
I see. And I'm curious to ask you if someone wants to become an artist in the field of computer graphics and Archviz. In your opinion, what could imagine if you're starting from zero, what would you suggest? Which are the a few basic skills that they need to start working on?
From the basic or
Yeah, like from zero, from scratch. Like somebody is listening to this podcast and they see your images and say, well, I love this art, I want to start doing something similar, and I want to learn. What do I need to learn? I mean, I've heard that the quality of an image from the technical point of view, it's based on the quality of the model, of the making the materials, and the lights. So is that something that they should start learning, or what is your opinion about this? Like, is it somebody that has started from zero and has learned so much?
I think I can suggest to people that a person that starts from the beginning to focus at least for a little bit of time. I don't know how many years or depending the passion that you have to start and improve your skills from the technical point of view. I mean, you try to focus to use a specific tool, I don't know, 3ds Max, Cinema 4D, or other modeling software, and or a specific render engine, V-Ray, Corona, or other new render engine, and focus on for a little bit of time to improve the technical skills, because the technical part is important. And a young 3D artist or a Buddhist artist has to know the technical aspect to in order to face the complex and solve the problems. And after that, start to dedicate a bit of time to looking for the artistic, so focus on storytelling. Because at the beginning, mix together more topics become a little bit complicated to face if you are at the beginning. But you can manage different technical, artistic aspects, and have always to keep curiosity alive, and try to work every day to improve, because only in this way you can improve your skills. And this is a process that takes time, and sometimes you have to put in an angle of the room your ego, sorry, and yes, be humble, be humble.
Yeah, this is a very nice suggestion that it's very useful for all the people who are going to listen this podcast. I thank you very much for being my guest for this chat. Uh,
Thank you too, Georgie. Thank you
uh,
too.
I, I I wish you all the best. I hope that
Thank
everybody
you.
will get out of this pandemic as quick as possible. I In the meanwhile, I've checked your favorite studio, Dark Studio. I can tell you, I'm gonna try to get someone of them on the podcast. I'm gonna tell them about you so that they keep you in mind. And last, I want to give you a little bit spot to shout out your website or social media channels where people that are listening to this podcast can find more about you.
Yes, my Instagram account is Cristina Patané Images, and my Facebook page with the same name, and with the website cristinapatane.com.
Very nice. So I suggest to everybody who are listening to go check those social media channels and the website, because the work of Christina, it's very good. And if you are architects or you need images, I suggest you to go try to work with artists like her, because it's amazing to support them in these hard times. And your work is amazing, and everybody will be, it's a win-win for sure. And I want to remind the people that not to forget to support also the Creative Insider community, and to grow it by just following the social media channel of the podcast, which are Instagram at TCI Podcast, and LinkedIn page, The Creative Insider, and the Facebook page, The Creative Insider. So thank you very much, Christina, and I wish you a nice day, and bye bye.
Thank you. Ciao. Bye.
The just like that. Just like that.